Quote, "Military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy, and Americans buy war like children gobble candy." Henry Kissinger. Maybe he said this, maybe not. I don't know, as I wasn't there. If the media and politicians urge us to honor the troops, why are they considered potential terrorists when they come home? If one would look into the real history of the US, one would find that none of these wars were necessary other than to further the agenda of the military-industrial complex. No war was for the purpose of defending our freedoms, nor making the world safe for democracy. Read or listen to Eisenhower's farewell address in which he warned of a growing military.
I'm a British veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and I agree with him. You are indoctrinated into a big gang to be the muscle for global banking cabals. I can look back and use my experience to honestly say that we didn't liberate or free those countries. We destroyed them and made them into Western puppet countries. Don't join up. It's not a valiant or honorable thing.
I served my evil country from 2004 to 2010 as a Navy submariner. I regret it wholeheartedly. I was young, naive, completely ignorant and immoral. Although I personally never killed anyone, but I was on the side contributing to an evil authoritarian empire. I completely reject and will never accept the thank you service gratitude towards my immoral choice of being a pawn for evil and my erroneous belief in imagined authority. I gradually learned how to build consciousness and morality through my acceptance of only what is true on my own as a natural growth in consciousness. It blows my mind that the majority of people do not grow consciously also. The only thing that should ever be adhered to is the truths in our reality and not perceptions and concepts driven solely on emotion. People have mistaken their own desires and perceptions to be the only truths that matter and will defend that delusion. Once I realized that what I perceived in reality does not matter outside of my mind is when I had no other option than to take the long road of tearing down my foundation of lies and perceptions that comforted me and to instead be driven by what actually is and reject what isn't. No argument or debate would ever exist if everyone grew up and adhered to the truth, and thereby would have no grounds for war.
I agree with what you are saying. You really shouldn't trust someone just because they are wearing a uniform. I spent 7+ years in the military. It's crazy how little of the big picture we ever got. 99% of the time, we didn't know why we were doing what we did. I will say, though, the military does target poor and impoverished minority communities more than anyone else. A lot of people who join know it's not that honorable. But options are small and they are desperate, or they don't care about morals at all.
I served 4 years in the Navy when I was 18. Boy, did it suck, mostly because the day-to-day decisions made by those in authority never made sense. I loathe the troops and teach my children that if the troops were truly fighting for our freedom over the past 100 years, we would be gaining freedoms as opposed to losing them. So the troops have either failed or we're never fighting for our freedoms.
I left the Army after 4 years, a war and a peacekeeping mission over this exact stream of consciousness. I no longer wanted to fight their wars or be part of their system. Everything I have done since being out of the Army has moved me farther from them, less like them. I truly believe psychopaths run our country. You put it to words better than I can. Nice work.
I'm a 5th-generation veteran and I approve this message. My son will not be serving this government. Josie, you have in your videos put into words the thoughts I've carried for nearly 30 years.
I'm a soldier, have been for 16 years. I recently came to understand and accept the voluntary lifestyle. I get out of the Army in December. I'm turning my back on 16 years and leaving a retirement behind because I refuse to fight for criminals. I refuse to kill anyone unless in the defense of my family and friends. And I will not have innocent blood on my hands.
In my opinion, from being an Afghanistan war vet in the infantry in 2010, I woke up to the fact that this war was a racket after leaving and researching the poppy fields we were confiscating from the Afghanis with threat of fire until they dealt their drug plant with us and not the Taliban. Like she says, there are good people and bad people. The ones on our side use the term war as an excuse for all violence and murder. Most of the ones on the Taliban side use their religion as their excuse to rape little boys and cut off women's noses and ears. I never killed anyone that wasn't self-defense or defense of others. It's not all black and white.
As a veteran, I agree with this guy. I was a slave in the Navy for 4 years. I still suffer 12 years later. I have to take antidepressants to feel normal. Thousands of your children die for nothing in accidents and in combat. Sadly, most military personnel die due to alcohol abuse. Why, you ask yourself? Because they are miserable. I have lost many Navy friends due to my activism to prevent people from enlisting by saying the truth. I pity military lifers. They are pathetic losers. I visited a Navy ship for Fleet Week yesterday and saw the sailors, and they all had that dead look in their eyes. It took me years to become someone normal.
While a belief in authority can lead people to inflict harm on others, that same belief often cannot limit the extent to which the agents of authority hurt other people. For example, many individuals who would never oppress an innocent person on their own become police officers, thereby acquiring the legal power to commit a certain degree of oppression. Yet, on many occasions, they end up going well beyond the legal oppression they are authorized to commit and become sadistic, power-happy monsters. The same is true, perhaps even more so, of soldiers. Perhaps the reason so many combat veterans end up being deeply emotionally traumatized is not so much a result of thinking about what they have witnessed as it is a result of thinking about what they themselves have done. The high rate of suicide among combat veterans supports this thesis. It makes little sense for someone to wish for his own death simply because he has seen something horrible. It makes a lot more sense for someone to wish for his own death because he himself has done something horrible and has in fact become something horrible.
I, my friend, am one of those people who refused to accept Social Security, and my military disability was stolen by the state because they claim I am dead. Hope vets today do not believe that the government will honor their sacrifice.
I would thank the troops for their service if they would take out the criminal U.S. government.
When people thank me for my service, I accept it in the spirit in which it was offered. I say, it was my pleasure. It actually was. I had a fucking blast in the Air Force and I never had to kill anyone. I didn't join up to kill people. I joined up to defend America from fucking communists. At least that's what I thought I was doing. And it's the same for every vet. I guess today it's terrorists, but it's essentially the same trick. People thank us because they bought the same bullshit story we did. A couple years into my first and only hitch, I realised there was something screwy going on. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The indoctrination is strong, but I could feel it in my gut. So I got the fuck out. Most of us get out after one enlistment. There's a reason, I mentioned it before. There really is something screwy, read also, wrong, going on. Don't be puzzled or shake your head when people thank you, my fellow vets. These are going to be the easiest people to discuss these ideas with, because these folks actually do care about freedom. We just need to help them understand what freedom really means.
Well said. Nothing makes me more hopeful than when enforcers make the shift. I don't see cops and soldiers as the enemy, but as our greatest potential ally. They are the key to the whole thing. If we can anoint the very culture of their occupational environment with lucid truth, such that they talk about it amongst themselves, then all the power shifts to the side of freedom, and there's no one who they'll hear it from more readily than one of their own. Thank you for your service. Not the military stuff, but for what you're doing now by actively discussing these ideas.
Although a person acting under authority performs actions that seem to violate standards of conscience, it would not be true to say that he loses his moral sense. Instead, it acquires a radically different focus. He does not respond with a moral sentiment to the actions he performs. Rather, his moral concern now shifts to a consideration of how well he is living up to the expectations that the authority has of him. In wartime, a soldier does not ask whether it is good or bad to bomb a hamlet. He does not experience shame or guilt in the destruction of a village. Rather, he feels pride or shame depending on how well he has performed the mission assigned to him.
In the World War, we used propaganda to make the boys accept conscription. They were made to feel ashamed if they didn't join the army. So vicious was this war propaganda that even God was brought into it. With few exceptions, our clergymen joined in the clamor to kill the Germans. God is on our side. It is His will that the Germans be killed. And in Germany, the good pastors called upon the Germans to kill the Allies, to please the same God. That was a part of the general propaganda, built up to make people war-conscious and murder-conscious. Beautiful ideals were painted for our boys who were sent out to die. This was the war to end all wars. This was the war to make the world safe for democracy. No one mentioned to them, as they marched away, that their going and their dying would mean huge war profits. No one told these American soldiers that they might be shot down by bullets made by their own brothers here. No one told them that the ships on which they were going to cross might be torpedoed by submarines built with United States patents. They were just told it was to be a glorious adventure.
In a combat setting, nearly everything that every government military does constitutes aggressive terrorism, and almost every order a soldier receives is an immoral order, whether it is to trespass on someone else's property, blow up a bridge, block a road, disarm civilians, detain and interrogate people without justification, or kill complete strangers, just on the say-so of a supposed authority. In fact, even when the rules of engagement are only to fire if fired upon, that is still often unjustified. When one is the aggressor, whether individually or acting on behalf of authority, the target of that aggression has the right to use whatever force is necessary to stop the aggressor. In other words, in a lot of situations, shooting at soldiers, including American soldiers, is inherently justified. Killing someone for defending himself against aggressors is murder, even when the aggressors are U.S. soldiers. And almost every soldier routinely commits immoral acts of aggression, believing that commands from authority make it okay for him to do so. If any soldier actually took seriously the idea that he had the duty to disobey an immoral order, the first thing he would do would be to quit the military.